Get your reactions ready. The live portion of the show will begin in just a moment.
That ball is hit high in the air to left. Looking up is Rooker. It is long gone. The 1-2. He got him. Grounded to short. Volpe fields. 21 up. 21 down. Grounded to third. Donaldson across the diamond. Rizzo. Grounded to third. Donaldson has it. There it is.
Today is Wednesday, June 28th, and it's Game 2 between the Yankees and the A's from Oakland Coliseum. Domingo Germán had Yankees fans on the edges of their seats tonight. My recap and your reactions coming up next. This is NYY Recaps.
Welcome to Yankee Stadium.
Just when they thought I was out, they pull me back in.
Perfection for Domingo Germán.
All right. I think if any night warrants the fun hat, it's tonight. Now, last night was arguably one of the worst games of the season. It's no secret that the A's have had a very tough year. And frankly, it was somewhat embarrassing, the performance that the Yankees put up last night. And tonight was the reverse, complete 360 of that, or 180, whatever. My cat's even in on it. Domingo Germán, 24th perfect game in Major League Baseball history. And first perfect game since Felix Hernandez way back in 2012. Unreal. This is the third perfect game that I've seen in my life. I'm just going to throw up a lot of chats today. I saw, obviously, David Wells in 98, David Cone in 99. Now, I didn't get to watch David Cone's live. I was actually playing in my own game that day. It's one of the few games I ever missed live in my entire life. And luckily, I got to see this one. This is the second time since we started this channel that the Yankees have had a no-hitter. We had one by Corey Kluber a couple of years ago. Domingo Germán almost threw one a couple of years ago against the Boston Red Sox in Fenway, if you guys recall. And this is one that's just going to be in history because there are so few perfect games. I mean, you'll remember this much more than you'll remember the Corey Kluber no-hitter. Canyon says, yo, what is this? This is a hell of a job by Domingo Germán. History. Marble Duck says, is anyone else going nuts? I would have been going nuts, but it's, 12:20 in the morning. I didn't want to wake my wife. I didn't want to wake the neighbors. But I was sitting here. I was pacing downstairs. I was going back and forth between different TVs. I was picking up my cat. I was eating Cheetos like you wouldn't believe. And I don't eat late at night, but it was like a nervous energy kind of thing. I've been working on the post game, and while the game is going on, I'm typically writing notes. But you don't ever write a note or write your monologue expecting that the game's going to end with a perfect game, but you kind of see it unfolding. So I'm going to go over some things that I want to talk about, and then we'll round back into Domingo. But hey, cats are going nuts because this time of night, it's crazy time. So it was, this was obviously a huge night for Domingo, but it was a good night for the Yankees at large. They had 11 runs. We saw flashes of life from Giancarlo Stanton. We saw Anthony Volpe continue to hit. He got a multi-hit game for the second day in a row. We got some super chats coming in here. Says, let's go! $27. Love that. Very fitting for the Yankees. We saw, obviously, Domingo pitching with a lot more confidence. Last time out, he got booed off the field. And it was, one of the worst performances of his career. And it shot was what was a pretty decent ERA up to a pretty bad ERA in a single outing. So, course correction tonight for sure. And we got some decent news before the game. I read the words that I've been wanting to read for a while, and I know a lot of you have been wanting to hear, which is that Aaron Judge has resumed baseball activities for the first time since injuring his toe. That was a tweet courtesy of Max Goodman. It was like an injection of energy into my day. The last thing that we heard about the situation was the introduction of the word tear into the nomenclature of this whole injury. And that shook me a lot. It shook us up a lot because it sounds like, he would be out a while. Now, the baseball activity was apparently just playing catch in the outfield. So let's not break out the champagne yet. It sounded on the broadcast like Meredith Marakovits was trying to tone down expectations. He's still not walking without pain. He's still not running, still not swinging the bat. He's got to start doing those things before you really have an idea of when he's going to be back. But, you're seeing August, you're seeing the word surgery, so you'll take progress. But, he probably saw last night's game and just said, hey, cut the toe off, man. Let's get back out there. You need a toe? I'll get you a toe by 3 o'clock. No problem. So tonight's pitching matchup, obviously Domingo Germán, but he was pitching against J.P. Sears. And the last 2 times that we saw Domingo, he got his brains beat in. And J.P. Sears used to be a Yankee. And former Yankees have just killed them this year. Joey Gallo, Sonny Gray. And so with the way the Yankees offense has been performing, I kind of went into this game thinking, all right, well, J.P. Sears is pretty much going to shove and shut us down. And Domingo has not been pitching well, so I don't think he's going to dominate. He'll probably give up a couple of runs. And, we're going to be all of a sudden finding ourselves losing a series to the A's. But Domingo came out of the gate strong, and he got stronger as the game went along. Game was scoreless until the 4th inning. Giancarlo Stanton got it going.
Home run for Stanton.
This night is a wrecking machine. The ultimate male versus the ultimate meatball.
422 feet off of that meatball. Only his 7th home run of the season. He hit the ball hard a couple of times tonight, which is a very good sign. I'm sure we'll find out over the next several days if this was the beginning of one of those nuclear Stanton kind of hot streaks, or if it was just, broken clock right twice in a day kind of thing. I want to see him hit some better pitching before I break out the aforementioned champagne. But Yankees had a great 5th inning. They got 6 runs. Kyle Higashioka doubled into the left field corner to score IKF, who had been running on the pitch. Volpe had a push bunt for a hit. A's kind of threw it away. That allowed another run to score. Volpe stole third base. That was his 16th steal of the season. So good night for him in general. And then he scored on a LeMahieu base hit to make it 4-0. Volpe also doubled later in the game. And I think what you're seeing from Volpe now, especially over the last 10 days or so since he corrected his batting stance, is a guy who's just playing with a lot more confidence, right? He's hitting pitches that he's supposed to hit. He's taking pitches that he's supposed to take. He's hitting the ball to right field. He's still swinging and missing a little bit too much, but he's hit the ball hard several times in this series, so a lot of positives. Also in that inning, another hard line drive single from Giancarlo, 2 RBI single. Good sign, but like I said, let's keep it going before we get too excited. Yankees led 7-0 after the top of the 5th. You figure against a team this bad that essentially the game was over and all attention was just going to turn to Domingo Germán. And he did not let us down. I was starting to think he had a real chance at the perfecto after the 7th inning because he only had 82 pitches. And we've seen him go through innings where it's almost effortless, right? He's just pounding that curveball for strike 1, strike 2, gets a nice easy ground ball. And there was one game earlier this year where he made it to the 9th inning, I think, and he had a chance for a Maddox, which is a complete game under 9 innings. Complete game under 100 pitches. It's too late, guys. It's 12:27 in the morning. My brain is jumbled. But anyway, he can have efficient innings. So you're thinking 18 pitches or so to get through 2 innings. I think he can do it. And one thing that's true about most perfect games is that pitchers don't generally have a lot of 3-ball counts. And that was true of Domingo tonight. He didn't have his second 3-ball count until there were 2 outs in the 8th inning. and he threw, I believe it was a 3-1 curveball, which to me was the ballsiest pitch of the night. It was an absolute hammer right down the middle for a strike, and he ended up getting out of it. Nice, easy ninth inning. Josh Donaldson, who we wanted off the team a couple of days ago, and who also had a tough night at the plate. He was 1 for 4 with a couple of RBIs, but hitting just 139. He got the ground ball to third, threw it across the diamond, and what do you know? Perfection.
Ball game over. Yankees win. Yankees win.
A lot of super chats coming in. Tommy C says, who gets the belt? We're about to find out.
You're a winner.
Belt goes to Isaiah Kiner-Falefa. No, I'm just kidding. Goes to Domingo Germán. I could have given it to anybody I wanted to and just created a gigantic, piece of controversy. But, hey, I like this trend of people donating $27 for 27 up, 27 down. Wouldn't complain if that was a thing. Ron B says, I remember watching Dave Righetti's no-hitter against the Red Sox, July 4th, 1983. That was when my age was measured in the weeks. I was born May 25th, 1983. So I would have been about 6 weeks old. The first no-hitter I saw was Jim Abbott, who, that was incredible. If you don't know the story of Jim Abbott, he had one hand. He was a left-handed pitcher, came up with the Angels. I don't think he ever pitched in the minor leagues, or he pitched in the minor leagues for a very brief amount of time. I think he was on the Olympics. And the Yankees signed him, and he was decent, not great. But he threw a no-hitter. Don Mattingly caught the final out. And then I remember one night I was sitting on my couch. I believe it was May 11th, 1996. I was eating sherbet, and I had a cat back then, too. His name was Milo, a little orange cat. And I remember we were watching the game together, and Dwight Gooden pitched a no-hitter against the Seattle Mariners. And I remember that was a tough one because that was such a great lineup. You had Edgar Martinez. You had Ken Griffey Jr. I think A-Rod was in the lineup that night. In fact, I think A-Rod hit one to center field that Gerald Williams ran down that kind of preserved the no-hitter. Obviously, the David Wells perfect game was on Beanie Baby Day, which was a sold-out Yankee Stadium. And look, it was just a completely dominating performance over the Minnesota Twins. Strike after strike, you could tell from the very beginning that his command was impeccable. And he was a guy who already had great command. So when he took it to that next level and he was dropping in that curveball whenever he wanted and whatever part of the zone he wanted, you knew he was going to get it. He just sawed through that lineup. The toughest out in that game was Paul Molitor. And you had to deal with the defensive issues of Chuck Knobloch. You're at the mercy of your defense in a perfect game because one error costs it for you, and that's out of your control as a pitcher. And that was right after, the wheels started to come off for Chuck Knobloch. Now, he was a big trade acquisition. I'd say 1999 was much worse for him, but 98 wasn't great either. In terms of defense. Offensively, he was okay. Didn't hit for a high average, but kept getting on base. But overall, I like the Knobloch deal. 99, obviously, I was at a baseball tournament that day. I didn't get to watch it. I watched it when I got home. David Cone against the Montreal Expos. They don't even exist anymore. They became the Nationals. And I remember just from what I, have seen millions and millions of times, the slider. That day, the Expos had no chance against his slider. It was moving 2 feet. He threw the sweeper before it was a sweeper. It was really a hard slurve, and nobody could do anything with it. And he had great command with it. And from listening to him on the ball game that he knows pitching. He knows the science of pitching. And so, look, he would carve guys up, make it look easy. I remember Mike Messina came 1 out away from a perfect game, and then you had a pinch hit by, I can't remember his name, but he was a jerk. I don't remember his name, for the Red Sox. That was in 2001. Alex says, is this the first Dominican ever to do it? I'm not sure. Maybe they said that on the broadcast, but if so, very, very cool. Dominican, obviously, big place for baseball. A lot of the best players in the world come from there. Let's take a look at this historic box score. Historic. Obviously, on the Yankee side, you got hits by LeMahieu. You got 2 hits from Stanton, 2 hits from Bader, 2 hits from Volpe. You got the home run from Stanton, 3 RBIs from Stanton. If Domingo hadn't pitched a great game, Stanton would have been looking at getting the belt. But how can you top a perfect game? And then obviously the entire story of this box score, which will probably be framed in Domingo Germán's house, is the bottom left. 9 innings, no hits, no runs, no earned runs, no walks, 9 strikeouts, no home runs allowed. His ERA is 4.54. Let's see what his overall win-loss is now. 5-5 on the season for Domingo Germán, the man of the hour. One more time for Mr. Domingo. Now, there's going to be a lot of talk about his various suspensions, and it would be irresponsible of me not to bring it up at all. He was suspended earlier this season for using what MLB deemed to be a foreign substance. His hands were too sticky. He was also suspended a couple of years ago for the domestic violence issue. He seems to have corrected that. But, the fact that you do something amazing like this and it still gets brought up, and, it's my responsibility to bring it up. I don't want to bring it up, but it's my responsibility. It just underscores the importance of having a good reputation, because then things don't, become, you don't have to have this stain on your reputation when you do something amazing. But 99 pitches tonight for Domingo Germán. Beautiful. I feel bad for my buddy Pete from NYY News TV. He always calls the games, always. And tonight he took the night off. He's not feeling well, and I saw that some folks on his channel were covering the game for him. So, Pete, hope you're feeling better. We'll talk about this on Friday in the postgame. Links with another $27 dono. What an amazing performance by Germán. Appreciate it. Wayne brings up a great point. He says props to Higashioka too. There's a lot of pressure on the catcher to not call horrible pitches in that point, and to know who you're working against, and to kind of think along the same lines as your pitcher and not make him have to shake you off, and to receive pitches on the edge of the strike zone in such a way that you get some of those borderline calls and can get those good counts, those quick 2-strike counts. So great job by Higashioka. Danny Orero says he was at the Gooden no-hitter. Third base side, 3 rows from the field. The last out got quiet, and you could hear Jeter yelling, I got it, I got it. Never forget it. My favorite story about that is that he had been essentially demolished a couple of times early in that season and just hadn't looked good at all. And I was listening to the radio that afternoon. I'll never forget this. And they were saying, boy, if he doesn't pitch well tonight, you might see Dwight Gooden get released. And then he goes out and throws a no-hitter. And I was just like, man, it's just weird how, the week before, maybe 2 weeks before David Wells threw his perfect game, there was that press conference where, he had a tough night in Texas. And Jack Curry writes about this in his book, The 1998 Yankees, which is phenomenal, by the way. There was that night in Texas where David Wells got completely bombed. I believe the Yankees were up like 8-0, 9-0, and he essentially gave back the entire lead. And then after the game, Joe Torre essentially questioned whether or not he was in shape, questioned his motivation, and he turned it around a couple starts later, threw a perfect game. And now this time, you're dealing with a guy who got booed off the stadium, or booed off the mound a couple of weeks ago, or a couple of days ago, really, and got suspended a couple of months ago, and now he's a part of baseball history. And if that's true, the first Dominican ever to throw a perfect game in the major leagues. So one more round of applause for Mr. Domingo Germán.
Game over, man. Game over.
Yanks fan says the only thing that sucks is we're going to see Donaldson on the replay over and over again. Junior says his off-speed pitches were sick tonight.
You gotta go.
100% agree.
Most impressive.
Justin Infante says he wonders what catcher caught the most perfect games or no-hitters. I know Posada caught a couple of them. I don't know if anybody else has ever caught two, but I think he caught... I don't know if he caught Cones. I know he caught Wells' perfect game. But that's a good question. Good question. SG says, love the red, white, and blue patriotic hat. You look like Uncle Sam. That's the Yankee hat, baby. That's the Yankee cap. All right, guys, we are going to call it a night, a historic night. One more round of applause for Mr. Domingo Germán. History at the Oakland Coliseum, and thank you for staying with me until 12:40 in the morning in the East. I'm sure we'll have more to talk about in games going forward. Yankees have an afternoon game tomorrow. They play at 3:30, so we'll be on around probably 7 o'clock. So I will catch you guys when I catch you guys. Good night.
Ball game over.
Most impressive.